The story begins in a time when war was raging everywhere. We focus on 7 women residing alone in a school. The lives of these women change when one of them brings an injured man back to the premises. The story starts showing us the year 1864. We see the state of Virginia, where the Civil War is taking place. We find a girls' school run by a teacher named Miss Martha. By 1864, due to the Civil War, most students and teachers had left the school for their homes. However, Miss Martha, another teacher named Miss Jane, and 5 girls still remained at the school. Next, we see a girl named Alice who went into the forest to pick mushrooms for everyone's dinner. As she was picking mushrooms, she suddenly saw a man sitting wounded under a tree. Seeing him, Alice was terrified because he was from the enemy army. The man quickly introduced himself, saying, "My name is John, and the enemy army beat me up badly, which is why I'm hiding here to escape them." Seeing John's condition, Alice felt pity for him, so she took him with her. However, as they approached the school, John fainted. Seeing him, all the girls and teachers rushed out. Miss Martha chastised Alice, saying, "I sent you to get mushrooms. What have you brought back instead?" Alice explained, "He was lying there injured, so I brought him along to help him." Seeing the man, the girls wondered if it was right to help him, as only girls lived in the school, and if the man's sexual interest were to awaken, they worried for their safety. But they couldn't just leave him to die, so they all carried him inside. They took him upstairs to a room where Miss Martha cleaned his wounds, bandaged them, and provided care. Afterwards, she locked the room and told all the students, "We will care for him until he recovers. Once he's well, we will hand him over to our army. Until then, none of you will go near this man." Hearing her instructions, the girls left. But as soon as they did, Miss Martha secretly went into John's room and undressed him to clean his wounds. Seeing John's physique, Miss Martha felt a strong sexual attraction, but quickly composed herself. Although she was tempted to have a sexual encounter with him, she thought, "I shouldn't take advantage of someone while they are unconscious." Just as she was leaving, Miss Martha looked outside and saw a contingent of soldiers patrolling the town. Miss Martha went to the gate to meet the soldiers. Inside, the girls were worried that she might tell the soldiers about John, but Miss Martha did not reveal anything and returned to the school. We see that John was a sturdy, well-built man, and he was quite attractive. Because of this, the girls would sneak into his room one by one every day to talk to him, which made them feel good. Later, we see Miss Martha praying with all the girls. After the prayer, she deliberately asks if anyone wants to offer any other prayer. Miss Jane says, "Yes, I pray that John recovers as quickly as possible." Hearing this, Miss Martha realized that Miss Jane was also eager to pursue a relationship with John. We see that just as the girls were vying for his attention, both teachers were also intensely attracted to him. The girls at the school started doing different things to impress John, such as dressing up for him or bringing him special meals, hoping that he would be impressed by one of them and reciprocate their interest. One day, Miss Martha came to the room. John realized that Miss Martha was the head of the school and the one in charge. He thought that if he could impress her, he would be very well taken care of. John began trying to impress Miss Martha. Miss Martha was almost ready to engage with him, but managed to stop herself. Just then, a girl named Carol came in and asked Miss Martha, "Can I help you with anything?" Miss Martha told her, "Get out of here. I know what you came here for." A little later, Miss Jane also came into John's room. John started trying to seduce her, using suggestive and inappropriate talk. His plan succeeded, as Miss Jane was aroused and wanted to have a sexual encounter with John. Miss Jane got into John's bed, and they engaged in intimacy. After this, we see Miss Martha praying with all the students. Suddenly, Carol gets up, pretends she needs to urinate, and leaves. She goes straight to John's room, holds him, and kisses him passionately. John was enjoying the moment. However, while kissing, Carol remembered that Miss Martha would be waiting for her, so she left. That night, we see the girls dining together, and they all decide to do something new to please John. They try to please John by playing music, but John was not interested in music. He was only interested in their attention. This was all happening when someone suddenly knocked on the school door. Miss Martha opened the door and saw that it was the patrolling soldiers. They had only come to check if everything was fine, and then they left. Afterward, we see Miss Martha sitting and drinking wine with John, and they are discussing something during this time. During this time, John realizes that Miss Martha is very strong, and if he wants to stay there comfortably, he must win her over. The next day, we see John start working on the school's gardening because he didn't want to leave. Why would he leave a place where so many women were interested in him to die in the war? Meanwhile, Miss Martha noticed that John's wounds had healed. Since he was completely recovered, he couldn't stay there. But John told Miss Martha that he didn't want to leave and wanted to stay and work as a gardener. Miss Martha refused him again, saying, "You can't stay here." Hearing this, John thought he would have to find another way to stay. He immediately went to Miss Jane and proposed marriage to her, saying, "Darling, I love you very much." Miss Jane was overjoyed, and they started kissing right there. They were about to become intimate, but a girl came in, and their activity was interrupted. We realize that since this is John's last night here, and he will be sent away tomorrow, they all decide to celebrate tonight. After dinner, John whispers in Miss Jane's ear, "I will come to your room tonight, and then we will have a vigorous, intimate encounter together." That night, we see Miss Jane waiting for John in her room. Not only her, but Miss Martha was also waiting for John in her room, thinking that John would definitely come to her tonight. After a long wait, John still didn't arrive. Miss Martha suddenly heard a loud noise downstairs. She came out of her room and saw that the noise was coming from John's room. As Miss Martha opened the door to his room, she saw that John had engaged in a sexual act with Carol. Seeing this, Miss Martha became furious and ordered John to leave immediately. John lied, saying, "I was only checking her fever." Miss Martha retorted, "Who checks a fever like that?" She then pushed him down the stairs. John fell so hard from the top that his leg was completely broken. Seeing this, Miss Jane and Miss Martha quickly picked him up and took him back to the room. Miss Martha says, "I am not a surgeon who can fix a broken leg. If we want to save his life, we have to amputate his leg." They had to make this decision quickly because John was bleeding heavily. We see that since there was no other way, they had to cut off John's leg. The next morning, when John woke up, he was horrified to see his missing leg. He looked at Miss Martha and screamed in rage, accusing her, "You deliberately did all this because I didn't come to you last night." Because John was frantic with anger, Miss Martha locked him in the room and went downstairs. A while later, we see Carol sneak into John's room and ask him, "Did my baby have a meal?" Hearing this, John completely loses his mind. He grabs her hair and says, "Fool, I will kill you." Miss Martha then decides that they are no longer safe and must hand John over to the army. Just then, John arrives and threatens them. "If you dare try to lock me in the room again, you cannot imagine what I will do to you all." Hearing this, Miss Martha tells Carol, "Go quickly and tie a blue cloth on the gate so the army knows we are in trouble." Carol quickly goes to tie the blue cloth, but John spots her. He then takes all the girls at gunpoint. He warns them, "If you try anything like that again, I will kill you all." He then goes to his room in a rage. Miss Jane thinks that John probably needs intimacy, which is why he's acting this way. So she goes to his room to provide him with pleasure and locks the room from inside. Miss Martha tries to stop her, but Miss Jane's desire has reached its peak. She goes to John and embraces him. John also enjoys it, and they become intimate. Seeing all this, Miss Martha is enraged and decides that John must be eliminated. She then decides to mix poison into his food. Miss Jane also agrees with this plan. Alice goes to the forest and picks poisonous mushrooms. That night, Miss Martha invites John to dinner. John is suspicious and asks Miss Jane to eat the mushrooms as well. But a girl quickly says, "No, Miss Jane is allergic to mushrooms." John believes her and eats the mushrooms alone. A little later, we see that due to eating the poisonous mushrooms, he immediately collapses and dies of suffocation. Afterward, they tie a blue cloth on the school gate and wrap John's body in a shroud, placing it at the door so the army can come and take his body away. We see that Miss Jane is very sad because she wanted to spend her life with John. The desires of all the other girls remain unfulfilled. And with these unfulfilled desires, the story ends here.